Welcome, friend. This is the week Draco Malfoy cursed himself, and Hogwarts spent 7 days laughing him back to life. The curse that wasn't there. Part 1, the lie that started it all. Monday, 7:03 p.m., the Great Hall. The victory feast was in full swing. Gryffindor table roared with laughter, pumpkin juice flowed like victory nectar, and Harry Potter, still buzzing from his first-ever Quidditch win, was trying, and failing, to eat his treacle tart while Ron recounted the match for the 5th time. And then you dove, like a proper madman, and caught the snitch right under Malfoy's nose. He looked like he'd swallowed a bludger. Harry grinned. He did yell something about my mother. Probably jealous, Hermione said, though her eyes twinkled. You were rather brilliant. At the Slytherin table, Draco Malfoy sat like a storm cloud in green robes. His knuckles were white around his fork. His face was pale. And his glare at Harry could have curdled milk. He hadn't just lost the match. He'd been humiliated. In front of everyone. By Potter. The famous Potter. The orphan Potter. Something had to be done. Monday, 8:17 p.m., the dungeon's corridor. Draco didn't plan to lie. It just slipped out. He was walking back to the Slytherin common room with Crabbe and Goyle lumbering behind him like mismatched shadows. A group of Hufflepuffs passed by, whispering. Saw the whole thing. Potter's amazing. Malfoy looked terrified. Draco stopped. Turned. Potter didn't beat me, he said, voice sharp as a knife. He cursed me. The Hufflepuffs froze. Crabbe blinked. He did? Of course he did, Draco said, chin high. The boy who lived doesn't win fair. He used the curse of silent tongue. That's why I couldn't call the snitch properly. Goyle frowned. But, you were shouting at him the whole time. For show. Draco snapped. To hide the curse. Only a true wizard would understand. The Hufflepuffs exchanged glances. One of them, a girl with pigtails, whispered, Is that a real curse? Draco hesitated. He didn't know. He'd never heard of it. But it sounded real. Ancient. Dangerous. Yes, he said firmly. And it's working. I can barely speak above a whisper. As if on cue, his voice dropped to a theatrical hush. The Hufflepuffs gasped. And just like that, the lie was born. Monday, 9 p.m., the Gryffindor common room. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat by the fire, still buzzing from the feast. Did you hear? Ron said, tossing a chocolate frog card into the flames. Malfoy's telling everyone you cursed him. Something called the silent tongue curse. Hermione snorted. There's no such thing. I've read every curse index in the library. The closest is Mudo Maximus, but that turns your tongue blue and makes you hiccup toadstools. Not exactly subtle. Harry frowned. So he's just making it up? Of course he is, Ron said. He can't stand that you're good at something he's rubbish at. So he blames magic. Hermione tapped her book thoughtfully. Still, it's odd. Why invent a curse that silences him? He loves the sound of his own voice. Harry shrugged. Maybe he's finally run out of things to say. They laughed. None of them noticed the flicker of movement outside the portrait hole. Draco Malfoy stood in the shadows, wrapped in his invisibility cloak, borrowed from his father's emergency kit, listening. And for the first time, he believed his own lie. If Potter had cursed him, then it made sense. The tightness in his chest. The way his voice felt, fragile. He touched his throat. Maybe the curse was real. Maybe it was just beginning. Monday, 10:45 p.m., Malfoy's dormitory. Draco didn't sleep. He sat on his bed, a single candle burning, a clove of garlic strung around his neck with silver thread. He'd found the garlic in the kitchens. Mrs. Norris had hissed at him, but he didn't care. Garlic warded off evil. Everyone knew that. He wrote in his journal. Day 1 of the curse. My voice is weaker. My thoughts are louder. Potter watches me. I can feel it. I must not speak. Not unless necessary. The curse feeds on words. He closed the book. Blow out the candle. And in the dark, he whispered to himself, just to test. I am not cursed. But even to his own ears, it sounded like a lie. Monday, 11:59 p.m. The castle, quiet. Somewhere in the castle, Peeves floated upside down near the ceiling, grinning to himself. He'd heard the rumor. He'd seen the garlic. He'd watched Malfoy jump at his own shadow. And tomorrow, oh, tomorrow would be fun. He giggled, a sound like breaking glass, and vanished into the walls. The week had only just begun. And the curse. Well, the curse hadn't even been real. But that didn't matter. Because in Hogwarts, a good story was often stronger than truth. And Draco Malfoy had just told the best one yet. Part 2, The Garlic Necklace. Tuesday, 7:58 a.m., the entrance to the Great Hall. Draco Malfoy did not walk. He glided. Head high, robes immaculate, and around his neck, the piece de resistance, a garlic necklace so large it could have fed Hagrid's pumpkins for a week. Each clove was polished, strung on silver thread, and blessed. He'd whispered a charm over it himself, Protego odorifera, though he'd made it up on the spot. It smelled pungent. But Draco didn't care. If the curse of Silent Tongue fed on words, perhaps garlic would starve it. After all, vampires hated garlic. And curses were just dark magic's cousins. He stepped into the Great Hall. Silence. Not the usual breakfast murmur. Actual silence. Then, a snort. From the Hufflepuff table. Draco's cheeks burned. But he kept walking. At the Slytherin table, Crabbe and Goyle stared. Blimey, Crabbe said. You smell like dinner. Protection, Draco hissed, voice carefully lowered to a whisper. Against the curse. Goyle nodded slowly. Smart. Draco sat. Poured pumpkin juice. Tried to ignore the way the garlic cloves clinked like wind chimes. He could feel eyes on him. Especially from the Gryffindor table. Tuesday, 8:03 a.m., the Gryffindor table. Ron choked on his toast. Is that garlic? He wheezed, pointing. Harry squinted. Looks like a whole bulb. Hermione didn't laugh. She frowned. He's serious. He really thinks he's cursed. Either that or he's trying to repel vampires, Ron said, grinning. Maybe he thinks you know who's a vampire now. Harry shook his head. It's just Malfoy being Malfoy. Making everything about himself. But even as he said it, he watched Draco pick at his eggs, barely speaking, flinching at loud noises, touching his throat like it hurt. It wasn't just an act. He believed it. Tuesday, 8:15 a.m., the ceiling. Peeves had been waiting. He'd watched Draco put on the necklace in the dormitory mirror. He'd heard him whisper to himself in the corridor. He'd even stolen a clove and now wore it as an earring. And now? Now was the moment. He dropped from the ceiling like a polka-dotted comet, landing with a flourish right behind Draco. Oh! Peeves trilled, voice ringing like a cracked bell. Vampire Malfoy. Afraid of the light. Afraid of words. Afraid of garlic. He spun in a circle, singing. Malfoy's a vampire, pale and thin. He drinks his pumpkin juice, and wins. No, he loses. What a sin. The hall exploded. Even the Ravenclaws snorted into their porridge. A third-year Hufflepuff dropped her spoon. Professor Flitwick, pouring tea, giggled so hard he spilled it on his robes. Draco froze. His face went from pale to scarlet to white again. He tried to speak, to yell at Peeves, but all that came out was a strangled, "I." Peeves leaned in, eyes gleaming. "Shoo. The curse is working. Can't talk, can you, Vampy?" Then, with a cackle, he vanished into the walls, leaving Draco alone with his garlic, and the entire school watching. Tuesday, 8:30 a.m., outside the hall. Draco didn't finish breakfast. He fled. Not to the dungeons. Not to the library. To the bathroom on the second floor, the one with the loose tile and the slightly leaky faucet. The one no one used. He locked the door. Stared at himself in the mirror. The garlic necklace hung heavy around his neck. His eyes were wide, panicked. "It's working," he whispered. "The curse is getting stronger." He didn't notice the small, invisible figure clinging to the ceiling. Peeves, grinning, whispered to himself, "Oh, this is better than I hoped." Tuesday, 12 p.m., the library. Hermione wasn't laughing anymore. She sat at her usual table, 3 books open. Curses and Counter-Curses, Volume 3. Magical Maladies and Their Misconceptions. The Psychology of Self-Imposed Afflictions. "Ron, this is serious," she said, not looking up. "If he truly believes he's cursed, it could manifest physically. Psychosomatic magic is real." Ron tossed a paper airplane, shaped like a snitch, across the table. "So what? Let him wear garlic. It's funny." "It's not funny," Hermione said sharply. "It's sad. He's so desperate to explain why he lost that he'd rather believe he was cursed than accept that Harry's just better." Harry, who'd been quietly reading Quidditch Through the Ages, looked up. "Maybe we should tell him the truth. And have him call us liars?" Ron snorted. "He'll just say we're part of the plot." Hermione closed her book. "Then maybe, we let the lie grow." Harry raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across Hermione's face, the kind that usually preceded either a brilliant plan, or detention. "What if," she said softly, "we make the curse realer?" Ron's eyes lit up. "You mean, help it along?" "Not help," Hermione corrected. "Just, nudge it in the right direction." Harry looked from Hermione to Ron, then back to his book. "You're both mad." But he was smiling. Tuesday, 6 p.m., the Gryffindor Common Room. The plan had a name by dinner. Operation Silent Tongue. Ron had sketched it on a napkin. Step 1, let Malfoy stew in his garlic. Step 2, introduce evidence of the curse. Step 3. Step 4, hilarity. Hermione had added in neat script. Ethical guidelines, no permanent harm. No real curses. Maximum embarrassment only. Harry had circled step 3 and written, "Get the twins involved." Now, as the fire crackled and rain tapped on the windows, Ron sent a coded message via owl to Fred and George. The reply came within minutes. "We're in. Meet us in the corridor near Filch's office at 8. Bring sweets. And a sense of poetic justice." Harry leaned back in his chair. "This is going to be brilliant." Hermione sipped her tea. "Or a complete disaster." Ron grinned. "Same thing, really." Outside, the wind howled. And somewhere in the castle, a boy in a garlic necklace whispered to the dark, "I'm not cursed." But even he didn't sound convinced. Part 3, The Fake Confession. Tuesday, 9:15 p.m., the Slytherin Common Room. Draco couldn't sleep. The garlic necklace itched. Peeve's song echoed in his skull. And worst of all, he still couldn't speak properly. Every time he tried to say more than 2 words, his voice cracked like a first-year's wand. It had to be the curse. What else could it be? He needed proof. Not for himself, he was past doubt. But for everyone else. If he could show them Potter cursed him, they'd have to believe him. They'd have to stop Potter. He pulled out a sheet of expensive parchment, green, with a silver snake watermark, and began to write. I, Harry Potter, hereby confess to cursing Draco Malfoy with the curse of Silent Tongue on October 28, 1991, out of jealousy and spite. He signed it with a messy H. Potter, close enough, he thought, to fool a quick glance. He didn't know Harry's real signature. But he didn't need to. He just needed it to look real for 5 seconds. Tomorrow, he'd slip it into Potter's things. And watch the fallout. Satisfied, he folded the note and tucked it into his robes. The curse would end tonight. He just had to deliver the evidence. Tuesday, 10:30 p.m., the corridor near Filch's office. Ron opened the door to a broom cupboard so fast he nearly fell out. "Blimey, you scared me," he hissed. Fred and George stood in the shadows, cloaks draped over their arms like stage magicians. "Took you long enough," George said, stepping inside. "We've been hiding behind a suit of armor that smells like old socks," Fred added. "Literally. I think it's haunted by a very unhygienic night." Hermione, already inside with Harry, rolled her eyes. "Focus. We have a plan." She unrolled Ron's napkin sketch. "Draco believes he's cursed. We're going to encourage that belief. But subtly. No magic. Just psychology." Harry held up a small vial. "Fred gave me this. It's harmless, just makes ink glow faintly under moonlight. We'll use it to authenticate any evidence we plant." Ron grinned. "And I've got the perfect place to hide it." He pulled a crumpled note from his pocket. "Found this under my pillow today. Looks like Malfoy tried to frame Harry." He smoothed it out. "I, Harry Potter, hereby confess to cursing Draco Malfoy." Hermione's eyes lit up. "This is perfect." "Wait," Harry said. "You're not going to use this, are you? It's obviously fake." "Exactly," Hermione said. "But Draco won't know that. And when he sees it, he'll think we found it. And he'll panic." Fred clapped his hands. "I love it. It's not a frame job. It's a mirror job." George nodded. "He'll see his own lie reflected back at him." Harry still looked uneasy. "But what if it goes too far?" Hermione met his eyes. "It won't. Because we're not the ones hurting him. He is." Silence. Then Ron said, "So, when do we do it?" "Tomorrow," Hermione said. "After breakfast. We'll leave it in the library, right where he'll accidentally find it." Fred pulled a small box from his cloak. "And while you're at it, maybe add a little something extra." He opened it. Inside, a tiny, coiled spring and a drop of ink. "This," Fred whispered, "is the whispering worm. Stick it to the back of the note. When he unfolds it, it'll whisper, 'You're cursed, Draco. You're cursed.'" George grinned. 4-5 seconds. Then it turns into a paper frog. Ron's eyes shone. "Brilliant." Harry sighed. "You're all terrible." But he was smiling. Wednesday, 8:45 a.m., the library. Draco wasn't looking for evidence. He was looking for cure. He'd spent the night reading Magical Remedies for the Afflicted and found a promising chapter, Garlic and Moonlight, a dual defense. He needed moonlight. And more garlic. As he wandered the aisles, head down, he didn't see Hermione slip the glowing note onto a shelf labeled, "Curses, Common Misconceptions." He didn't see Ron trip and knock over a pile of books, drawing Madame Pance's attention. He didn't see Harry watching from behind, Quidditch through the ages. But he did see the note. It fluttered to the floor at his feet, as if fallen from the shelf. He picked it up, unfolded it, and froze. "I, Harry Potter, hereby confess to cursing Draco Malfoy." His breath caught. Then, a whisper. Faint, hissing, right in his ear. "You're cursed, Draco. You're cursed." He dropped the note like it burned. Looked around wildly. No one was there. But the words echoed. He grabbed the note, shoved it in his pocket, and ran. Not to his dormitory. To the one place he thought was safe. The bathroom on the second floor. Wednesday, 9 a.m., the second-floor bathroom. He locked the door. Leaned against it, heart hammering. He unfolded the note again. The ink glowed. Faintly. Silvery. Like moonlight. "It's real," he whispered. "It's all real." He sank to the floor, back against the tile. For the first time, he didn't feel angry. He felt afraid. What if the curse never lifted? What if he never spoke properly again? What if he was just silent for the rest of his life? He pressed the note to his chest. And whispered the only thing he could think of. "Help me." Outside, Peeves floated upside down in the corridor, grinning. He'd seen everything. And he knew, the best part was yet to come. Wednesday, 1 p.m., the Gryffindor common room. They watched him from the window. Draco walked to potions class alone, head down, the garlic necklace clinking softly. He didn't look at anyone. Didn't speak. Didn't even flinch when Peeves dropped a water balloon nearby. "He's broken," Ron said, no triumph in his voice. Hermione bit her lip. "We didn't break him. His pride did." Harry was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What if we help him? Really help him?" Hermione looked at him. "How?" "By showing him the truth," Harry said. "Not with tricks. With honesty." Ron groaned. "Ugh. And ruin all the fun?" But even he didn't laugh. Because for the first time, it didn't feel like a game. It felt like something more. Part 4, The Twins' Secret Shop. Wednesday, 3 p.m., the abandoned classroom. The room was empty, except for dust, 2 broomsticks leaning in the corner, and a chalkboard that still bore the ghost of Professor Bin's lecture on goblin rebellions. But today, it was open for business. Fred and George had transformed it into a pop-up prank emporium. A rope hung across the doorway with a sign. Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, Curse Consultation, by appointment only. Inside, the twins stood behind a desk made of stacked textbooks, wearing pointed hats and robes that shimmered with illusory gold. "Welcome, honored clients," Fred said, bowing deeply. "To the finest purveyors of punitive pranks and curse-correcting contraptions." George gestured to a shelf lined with oddities. "The echoing inkwell repeats the last word you write in a ghostly whisper. The confession quill makes you write your deepest secret in glitter. The bubble voice elixir turns speech into floating, readable soap bubbles. The shame stone gets heavier the more you lie." Ron whistled. "You've been holding out on us." "Just waiting for the right cause," George said, winking. "And framing Malfoy as the victim of his own lie. That's art." Hermione picked up the bubble voice elixir. "This is harmless." "Completely," Fred said. "Lasts an hour. Then the bubbles pop and smell like roses." Harry held up the shame stone. "And this?" "Psychological," George admitted. It's just a rock. But if you believe it's heavy, it feels heavy. Hermione nodded slowly. So it's not about the object. It's about the mind. Exactly. Fred said. Which is why this whole thing is perfect. Malfoy's already cursed himself. We're just adding subtitles. Ron grinned. So what's the plan? Wednesday, 4 p.m., the strategy session. They gathered around the desk. Hermione laid out the rules again. 1. No permanent harm. 2. No real dark magic. 3. The goal isn't to hurt him, it's to show him how ridiculous he's being. Fred tapped the bubble voice elixir. This is key. If he tries to talk, he'll see his own words floating in front of him. And if those words are, "I'm cursed," well, even he might notice the pattern. George added, and if we time it right, say, during Snape's class, he'll have an audience. Harry frowned. Snape will kill us. Snape will be distracted, Ron corrected. By Malfoy's bubbles. Hermione bit her lip. But what if he really breaks down? What if he stops talking altogether? Fred's smile softened. Then we stop. No prank is worth that. George nodded. We're mischief makers, not monsters. Harry looked at them, really looked. You two, actually care. Fred shrugged. He's a prat. But he's still a kid. And kids deserve a second chance, George added. Even slimy, silver blonde ones. Hermione smiled. Then let's give him one. Ron clapped his hands. Operation Silent Tongue, Phase 2, Bubble Trouble. Wednesday, 6 p.m., the potion. They brewed it in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Hermione insisted, nowhere near the real kitchens. And no traceable ingredients. The recipe was simple. Essence of rosewater, for the scent. Moonstone dust, for the shimmer. A single drop of truth serum, borrowed from Snape's stores, Ron's finest lockpicking moment. And a pinch of powdered laughter, a Weasley family secret. As the liquid turned pearlescent, Harry stirred with his wand. It's beautiful, Ron said. It's dangerous, Hermione corrected. If he drinks it and lies, the bubbles will turn black. Then let's hope he finally tells the truth, Harry said. They poured it into a tiny vial shaped like a snitch. Fred tucked it into his pocket. Delivery tonight. Wednesday, 8:30 p.m., the dormitory. Draco sat on his bed, the fake confession note in his lap. He hadn't spoken all day. Hadn't eaten. Hadn't even taken off the garlic. He kept replaying the whisper, "You're cursed, Draco. You're cursed." What if it was true? What if Potter had cursed him, and no one would help? He looked at his reflection in the window. A pale boy in green robes. Eyes hollow. Neck weighed down by cloves. "Is this all I am?" he whispered. Outside, a shadow moved. Not Peeves. Two shadows. Fred and George, perched on the windowsill like gargoyles. They didn't speak. Just held up the tiny snitch vial. Then tossed it through the slightly open window. It landed on Draco's pillow with a soft plink. He stared at it. The note. The vial. The whisper. It was all connected. He uncorked the vial. Sniffed. Roses. He drank. Wednesday, 9 p.m., the first bubble. He didn't notice it at first. He was writing in his journal, "The potion helped. My throat feels clearer." Then, a soft pop. A bubble floated from his lips. It shimmered in the candlelight. And on its surface, in elegant script, were the words. "I'm still cursed." Draco gasped. Another bubble formed as he said, "What is this?" It read. "What is this?" He touched it. It popped. Smelled like roses. He laughed, a real, surprised laugh. Then stopped. Because the next bubble said, "I'm scared." He hadn't meant to say that. But the potion didn't care. It only cared about truth. And the truth, it seemed, was bubbling out of him whether he wanted it to or not. Wednesday, 10 p.m., the castle watches. From the astronomy tower, Harry, Ron, and Hermione watched through omnioculars, borrowed from Hagrid. "He's smiling," Ron said, stunned. "He's crying," Hermione corrected softly. Harry lowered the omnioculars. "Do you think it's working?" "I think," Hermione said, "that for the first time, he's hearing himself." Below, in his dormitory window, Draco sat surrounded by bubbles, some glowing gold, some faintly silver. And one, just forming, read, "I don't want to be alone." Peeves floated nearby, unusually quiet. Even he knew. Some jokes weren't meant to be laughed at. They were meant to be understood. Part 5, The Talking Parchment. Thursday, 7 a.m., the Slytherin dormitory. Draco woke to silence. Not the heavy silence of fear. But the soft, clean silence of after. The bubbles were gone. The rose scent had faded. But the feeling remained. For the first time in days, his throat didn't ache. His mind didn't race. He just was. He sat up. The garlic necklace lay on the bedside table, untouched. He picked up his journal. Wrote. The potion helped. Maybe the curse is lifting. As he set down the quill, the parchment rippled. Not from his hand. From within. A new line formed, in his own handwriting, but not by his hand. Liar. You know it was never a curse. Draco froze. What? He whispered. The parchment answered. You made it up. Because you lost. Because you were embarrassed. Because you couldn't stand that Potter was better. No. Draco hissed, slamming the book shut. But the voice wasn't done. It seeped through the cover, soft, mocking, his own voice. Admit it, Draco. You're not cursed. You're just, ordinary. Thursday, 8:15 a.m., the Great Hall. Draco didn't go to breakfast. He stayed in the dormitory, arguing with a piece of paper. It's a trick, he muttered, pacing. Potter's trick. Or the Weasleys. The parchment, left open on the bed, wrote. They didn't do this. You did. He threw a book at it. It bounced off. The parchment wrote. Even your anger is ordinary. Desperate, he grabbed a fresh sheet. A letter. To Professor Snape. Dear Professor. I believe I am under a curse. Please help me. He signed it. Folded it. Tucked it in his robe. As he walked to the dungeons, the letter grew warm. He didn't notice, until Snape's classroom. Thursday, 9:30 a.m., Snape's potions class. Snape stood at the front, black robes swirling like smoke. Today, he said, voice like ice, we brew the draught of peace. Precision. Patience. And for Merlin's sake, no talking. Draco sat in the back, clutching his letter. He'd wait until the end. Hand it to Snape privately. Get help. But as he pulled the letter from his robe, it unfolded itself. And in front of the entire class, it began to read aloud, in Draco's own voice, but louder, clearer, inescapable. Dear Professor. I believe I am under a curse. Please help me. Snape turned slowly. The class froze. Then the parchment continued. P.S. I made it all up because I couldn't stand losing to Potter. And now I'm scared everyone knows I'm a fraud. Silence. Then, a snort. From Ron. Then a giggle from Lavender Brown. Then, like a dam breaking, the whole class erupted. Even Pansy Parkinson covered her mouth, eyes wide. Snape's expression didn't change. But his eyes. His eyes held something almost like pity. "Mr. Malfoy," he said, voice dangerously soft. "If you are going to lie, at least do it quietly." He turned back to the board. Draco sat, face burning, the letter crumpling in his fist. But the parchment wasn't done. It floated from his hand. Hovered in the air. And in huge, glowing letters, it wrote one final line. The curse that wasn't there. Then it dropped to the floor. And turned into a paper frog. Which hopped onto Snape's desk. And croaked, "Ribbit. Liar." Even Snape's lips twitched. Thursday, 12 p.m., the library. Harry, Ron, and Hermione watched from behind a bookshelf. "That," Ron said, awed, "was the best thing I've ever seen." Hermione didn't smile. "We didn't do that." The parchment, it knew. Fred and George appeared beside them, grinning. "We may have added a drop of Veritaserum-infused ink to his quill last night," George admitted. "And a charm that makes paper speak truth when fear is near," Fred added. But the words? Those were all him. Harry looked at Draco, who sat alone in the courtyard, head in his hands. "He's not laughing," Harry said. "No," Hermione said softly. "But maybe he's finally listening." Thursday, 3 p.m., the courtyard. Draco sat under the oak tree, the paper frog in his palm. It didn't hop away. Didn't croak. Just sat, watching him with ink-dot eyes. He thought of the bubbles. The whispering parchment. The garlic. The lie he'd told, and then believed. He looked up. Saw Harry, Ron, and Hermione at the library window. They weren't laughing. Just, waiting. He stood. Walked over. Stopped a few feet away. "I know it was you," he said. His voice was quiet. Steady. Real. Harry didn't deny it. "We didn't curse you, Malfoy. You did that yourself." Draco nodded. "I know." Silence. Then, to everyone's shock, including his own, he said, "Thank you." Ron blinked. "For what?" "For making me see it." He turned to leave. Then paused. Looked back. The frog can stay. And for the first time all week. He smiled. Not a smirk. A real smile. Small. Fragile. But his. Thursday, 8 p.m., the Gryffindor common room. The twins were already there, celebrating. Operation, Silent Tongue, complete. George declared. Phase 1, humiliation, Fred said. Phase 2, revelation, George added. Phase 3, redemption, Fred finished. Hermione rolled her eyes. It wasn't redemption. It was accountability. Harry smiled. Either way, it worked. Ron held up the paper frog, now sitting on the mantelpiece. What do we name him? Draco Jr., Hermione said dryly. They laughed. But as the fire crackled and the castle settled into night, Harry looked out the window. At the stars. At the quiet dormitories. At the boy who'd finally stopped lying. And he thought. Maybe the best magic isn't in wands or potions. Maybe it's in the moment someone chooses to be honest. Friday, 6:30 a.m., the Slytherin dormitory. Draco avoided mirrors. Not out of vanity. But out of fear. Ever since the parchment incident, every reflection seemed to judge him. His eyes looked tired. His mouth set in a frown he didn't remember making. But today, he had no choice. He needed to fix his hair before potions. Snape had already seen him at his worst. He wouldn't see him messy. He stood before the full-length mirror in the corner of the dormitory, the one with the silver serpent frame, a gift from his father. He smoothed his hair. Adjusted his tie. Then, the mirror spoke. Not in words. In laughter. A soft, cruel chuckle that echoed in the empty room. Draco froze. "Stop it," he whispered. The mirror didn't stop. Instead, his reflection changed. Not dramatically. Just, truthfully. His hair wasn't perfect, it was combed too hard, like he was trying too much. His tie wasn't straight, it was pulled tight, like a noose. And his eyes were empty. Then, in the glass, words formed, steamy, like breath on glass. "Who are you trying to fool?" Draco stepped back. "It's just a trick. Another Weasley trick." But the mirror wasn't done. His reflection mimicked him, but slower, sadder. When Draco turned away, the reflection stayed, staring at him with pity. "You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to be him. Shut up." Draco shouted, grabbing his schoolbag. He turned to leave. But the mirror's final words followed him out the door. "Be Draco. Not the shadow of your father." Friday, 1 p.m., the library. Harry saw him first. Draco sat alone at a corner table, head down, fingers tracing the rim of a teacup. No garlic. No parchment. No mask. Just, quiet. "He looks wrecked," Ron whispered. Hermione watched him closely. "He's thinking." Fred and George appeared beside them, unusually subdued. "We may have gone too far," George admitted. "The mirror was supposed to show him the truth," Fred said. "Not break him." Hermione shook her head. "It didn't break him. It's giving him a choice." Harry didn't say anything. He just watched Draco lift the teacup. And for the first time, his hand wasn't shaking. Friday, 3 p.m., the twins' final prank. They met in the abandoned classroom. The Weasleys laid out their last invention. The reflection remedy. A small hand mirror that shows you not who you are, but who you could be. "It's not a joke," George said seriously. "It's a gift." Fred added, "If he looks into it and sees a better version of himself, maybe he'll try to become it." Hermione took the mirror. It was warm. Simple. No glitter. No tricks. "Why now?" she asked. "Because everyone deserves a second chance," Fred said. "Even him." Harry took the mirror. "I'll give it to him." Friday, 7 p.m., the courtyard. Draco sat under the same oak tree, the paper frog sleeping in his palm. Harry approached. Draco didn't look up. "Come to gloat?" "No," Harry said. He held out the mirror. "I came to give you this." Draco stared at it. "Another trick?" "It's not a trick," Harry said. "It's a choice." Draco took it. Looked into it. And saw. Not his father's cold eyes. Not Potter's fame. Not the perfect Slytherin heir. He saw himself. Older, calmer. Standing beside friends who weren't sycophants. Smiling without malice. Free. He lowered the mirror. Looked at Harry. "Why are you doing this?" Harry shrugged. "Because I know what it's like to be told who you have to be. I chose my own path. Maybe, you can too." Draco nodded slowly. Then, quietly, "The frog says you're not as annoying as you look." Harry grinned. "Tell the frog I said thanks." Friday, 9 p.m., the Slytherin common room. Draco placed the new mirror on his bedside table, next to the old one. The old mirror stayed silent. The new one glowed faintly, not with magic, but with possibility. He took off his Slytherin tie. Didn't replace it. Just went to bed in his shirt, the paper frog curled in his palm. And for the first time in weeks, he slept without dreams. Friday, 11:59 p.m., the castle. Peeves floated near the astronomy tower, unusually quiet. He'd watched it all. The garlic. The bubbles. The parchment. The mirror. And for once, he didn't laugh. He just whispered to the stars. "Well played, Potter. Well played." Then he vanished into the walls, leaving the castle in peaceful silence. The week wasn't over yet. But the curse? The curse was finally gone. Part 7, The Bubble Voice Arrives. Saturday, 8 a.m., the Slytherin dormitory. Draco woke early. Not because of fear. Not because of curses. But because he had something to say. He sat up, the paper frog blinking sleepily in his palm. The new mirror on his nightstand caught the morning sun, no words, no judgment, just quiet possibility. He took a deep breath. And spoke. "I'm not cursed." A bubble formed. Not rose-scented. Not glittering. But clear, like glass, with words in simple black ink. "I'm not cursed." It floated to the ceiling. Popped softly. Left behind the faint scent of rain, clean, fresh, new. Draco smiled. Then he said it again, louder, firmer. "I made it all up." Another bubble. "I made it all up." This one drifted out the window, into the open sky. Saturday, 9:30 a.m., the Great Hall. Breakfast was loud, chaotic, normal. Then, a bubble floated down from the ceiling. It hovered over the Slytherin table. I was jealous. Silence. Pansy looked up. "Is that Malfoy's handwriting?" Another bubble followed. "Harry Potter is better than me. And that's okay." The hall erupted, not in laughter, but in shock. Even Snape, pouring coffee at the staff table, paused. At the Gryffindor table, Ron dropped his fork. "He's confessing." In bubbles. Hermione's eyes shone. "He's not hiding anymore." Harry watched as bubble after bubble drifted down. "I don't want to be like my father. I'm tired of being cruel. Can I start over?" Then, the final one. "Thank you, Potter." It floated straight to Harry's plate. And popped with a soft plink. Harry looked up. Across the hall, Draco met his eyes. Not with a sneer. Not with a glare. With a nod. Saturday, 11 a.m., the Quidditch pitch. Draco stood alone at the edge of the field. No broom. No audience. Just him and the open sky. He'd come here to practice. Not to win. Not to show off. But to fly for himself. He whispered, "I'm just Draco." A bubble formed, larger than the others, glowing faintly gold. "I'm just Draco." It rose into the air. And didn't pop. It stayed. Drifting over the pitch like a silent promise. From the trees, Harry, Ron, and Hermione watched. "He's free," Hermione said softly. Ron grinned. "About time." Harry didn't speak. He just watched the bubble catch the sunlight. A tiny, floating truth in a world of lies. Saturday, 1 p.m., the library. Draco sat at a table, not the Slytherin corner, but the center aisle. He opened a new journal. Wrote. Day 1 of not being cursed. Also day 1 of being me. He didn't flinch when Pansy walked by, eyes wide. Didn't look away when Crabbe and Goyle hovered awkwardly. He just kept writing. And when a bubble floated from his lips. "This is scary." He let it be. Hermione approached, holding a book. "You're in the wrong section," she said gently. "The self-help books are over there." Draco looked up. "I'm not looking for help. I'm looking for truth." Hermione smiled. "Then you're in the right place." She slid into the seat across from him. And for the first time, a Slytherin and a Gryffindor sat in silence. Not as enemies, but as people. Saturday, 6 p.m., the common room, Gryffindor. The twins were ecstatic. "It's working!" Fred cried. "He's not just confessing, he's rebuilding." George held up a new vial. "I've been working on Bubble Voice 2.0, now they turn into butterflies when they pop." Hermione frowned. "No more potions. He doesn't need tricks anymore." Harry nodded. "He's doing it on his own." Ron looked out the window. "Do you think he'll ever be a friend?" Hermione sipped her tea. "Not yet. But maybe an ally." Harry smiled. "That's enough for now." Outside, the golden bubble still drifted over the pitch. A beacon of honesty in a castle full of secrets. Saturday, 10 p.m., the astronomy tower. Draco climbed the stairs alone. He'd never been here before. Too high. Too open. Too exposed. But tonight, he needed to see the stars. He leaned on the parapet, the paper frog in his pocket. And spoke, not to the sky, but to himself. "I'm not perfect. I'm not evil. I'm just trying." Each word became a bubble. Each bubble rose. None of them popped. They gathered above the tower, a constellation of truth. Below, in the courtyard, Peeves watched. For once, he didn't mock. He just whispered. "Well, look at that. A Malfoy with a soul." And for the first time, he saluted. Part 8, The Bubble That Wouldn't Pop. Sunday, 7 a.m., the castle courtyard. The bubble was still there. Not just floating. Thriving. It hovered above the Quidditch pitch, glowing softly in the dawn light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Students pointed. Teachers whispered. Even the owl circled it, as if sensing something sacred. "It's Malfoy's," a first-year Hufflepuff breathed. "He's cursed with honesty." "No," Hermione corrected gently, passing by with her books. "He's blessed with it." At the edge of the courtyard, Draco watched from under the oak tree, the paper frog perched on his shoulder. He hadn't spoken all morning. He didn't need to. The bubble was speaking for him. Sunday, 10 a.m., the twins' dilemma. Fred and George stood in their abandoned classroom, staring at a new invention. The popper. A tiny wand that makes any magical bubble vanish on command. "We could end it," Fred said, twirling the wand. One flick, and the bubble's gone. Back to normal. George frowned. But is that what he wants? Or what we want? Hermione stepped inside, arms crossed. "You're not serious." "We're pranksters," Fred said. "Our job is to cause chaos, not, whatever this is." "This isn't chaos," Hermione said. "It's courage. And if you pop that bubble, you're telling him his truth doesn't matter." Harry appeared in the doorway. He finally stood up to his whole life. "Don't tear it down because it's not funny." Ron nodded. "Besides, it's kind of beautiful." Fred looked at the wand. Then at his brother. Slowly, he snapped it in half. "Let the bubble stay," he said. George grinned. After all, the best pranks are the ones that change people. Sunday, 1 p.m., the staff table. Even the professors were talking. Remarkable, Flitwick squeaked, peering through his spectacles. The bubble's magic is self-sustaining. No external charm. Sprout nodded. It's pure emotional magic. The kind you can't teach. Snape, unusually quiet, watched Draco from across the hall. The boy sat alone, but not lonely. He read a book. Ate his lunch. Didn't flinch when Pansy sat at the far end of the table. Snape's lips twitched, not a sneer, but something almost like pride. He's choosing himself, Snape murmured, so softly no one heard. Sunday, 3 p.m., the library. Draco sat with Hermione. Not by accident. Not by dare. But by choice. She slid a book across the table, Advanced Charms for Ethical Practitioners. You'll need this, she said. If you're serious about being, you. Draco opened it. Why are you helping me? Hermione didn't look up from her notes. Because everyone deserves a second act. Even you. He read a page. Then said, quietly, I'm scared I'll go back. To the old me. Another bubble formed. I'm scared I'll go back. It floated between them. Hermione didn't let it pop. She just said, then don't. And for the first time, Draco believed he could. Sunday, 6 p.m., the bubble's secret. Harry climbed the astronomy tower alone. He'd noticed something. The bubble didn't just float. It followed Draco. When Draco walked to the lake, it drifted above him. When he sat in the library, it hovered by the window. It was bound to him, not as a curse, but as a guardian. Harry touched the parapet. Is it you? He whispered. The bubble floated down, brushing his hand. In that moment, he understood. The bubble wasn't magic. It was hope. And hope, once spoken, refuses to die. Sunday, 9 p.m., the dormitory. Draco lay in bed, the paper frog snoring softly on his pillow. He looked at the ceiling, where the golden bubble glowed through his window. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. He just thought. I'm still here. And I'm not lying. The bubble pulsed, once, warmly, in reply. Outside, Peeves floated upside down, watching. He didn't sing. Didn't cackle. Just whispered. Keep flying, little bubble. The castle needs your light. Then he vanished. Leaving Draco in peaceful silence. Sunday, 11:59 p.m., the end of the week. The week was over. No curses. No garlic. No lies. Just a boy who chose truth. And a bubble that refused to let it fade. In the great hall, the enchanted ceiling showed a sky full of stars. And high above the Quidditch pitch, one golden bubble shone brighter than them all. Part 9, The Whole School Knows. Monday, 8 a.m., the Great Hall. It started with a bubble. Not Draco's golden one, still glowing proudly over the pitch, but a new one. Small. Silver. Timid. It floated from Neville Longbottom's lips as he whispered. I'm not useless. The hall fell silent. Neville's face flushed crimson. He ducked his head, expecting laughter. But it didn't come. Instead, a bubble rose from Ginny Weasley's table. I'm not just Ron's sister. Then from a Hufflepuff first year. I miss my mum. Then from a Ravenclaw prefect. I'm scared I'm not smart enough. One by one, bubbles filled the air, not lies, not boasts, but truths. Draco watched from the Slytherin table, stunned. His bubble wasn't alone anymore. It was the beginning of a chorus. Monday, 10 a.m., the classrooms. Potions class was different. When Snape snapped, "Explain your incompetence, Longbottom," Neville didn't stammer. He took a breath, and said, "I'm nervous because you scare me." A bubble formed. "You scare me." Snape froze. Then, to everyone's shock, he said, "Fear is a poor ingredient. But honesty is acceptable." He turned away. "Now, try again." In charms, Hermione noticed something else. Students weren't just whispering bubbles. They were listening. When Lavender Brown's bubble read, "I think my cat hates me." Parvati patted her hand, "Mine too." Maybe they're plotting together. Even Crabbe and Goyle sat quietly as Draco's bubble drifted past their table. Goyle whispered, "Do you think we could try?" Crabbe nodded. "I don't want to be mean no more." His bubble was clumsy, misspelled, but real. Monday, 1 p.m., the library. Hermione found Draco in the restricted section. Not skulking. Not scheming. Just reading Defensive Magic for Beginners. "You're inspiring a movement," she said, smiling. Draco didn't look up. "I didn't mean to." "That's the best kind," she said. "Truth isn't loud. It's contagious." He closed the book. What if it stops? What if everyone goes back to pretending? Hermione pointed out the window. A dozen bubbles floated in the courtyard, Slytherins, Gryffindors, even a timid ghost, nearly headless Nyx read, "I'm tired of being almost brave." "Look at them," she said. "Once you've tasted truth, you don't go back." Monday, 3 p.m., the twins' new mission. Fred and George stood in the Great Hall, not selling tricks, but handing out small vials. "Bubble voice light," George announced. "Harmless. Temporary. For those who need a little push." Fred added, "1 drop in your drink. Speak your truth. Watch it float." Ron watched, arms crossed. "Since when did you become therapists?" "Since we realized the best pranks aren't about embarrassment," George said. "They're about freedom." Hermione approached, holding a vial. "You're not charging?" Fred grinned. "For truth? Never." Monday, 6 p.m., the Slytherin common room. Draco walked in, and didn't head to his usual corner. He sat near the fire, where Pansy, Crabbe, and Goyle huddled. No one spoke. Then Pansy whispered, "I wear so much makeup because I hate my freckles." Her bubble was pink, shimmering. Draco nodded. "I wore garlic because I hated losing." Goyle, "I laughed at people 'cause I was scared they'd laugh at me." Crabbe, "I don't even like being mean. It's just what we do." For the first time, the Slytherin common room wasn't full of sneers. It was full of relief. Monday, 9 p.m., the Astronomy Tower. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood under the stars. Below, the castle glittered with bubbles, hundreds of them, rising like fireflies. "It's beautiful," Hermione whispered. Ron snorted. "Yeah, well, don't tell Fred and George. They'll start selling romantic truth bubbles by Valentine's." Harry smiled. "Do you think it'll last?" Hermione watched Draco's golden bubble drift toward the tower, slow, steady, sure. "As long as someone keeps speaking honestly," she said. "And someone keeps listening." Monday, 11:59 p.m., the castle's new heart. Peeves floated through the halls, not causing chaos, but collecting bubbles. He caught them in an old umbrella, their soft light filling the shadows. "Quiet truths," he murmured. "Best kind." Even the staircases seemed to move slower, as if listening. And in the center of it all, a boy who'd once worn garlic to hide a lie, now stood in the courtyard, watching his truth light up the world. Part 10, The Final Bubble. Tuesday, 9 a.m., Snape's Potions classroom. The air was thick with tension. Not the usual tension of fear, but the quiet hum of anticipation. Every eye was on Draco Malfoy. He stood at his cauldron, back straight, hands steady. No garlic. No notes. Just him, the ingredients, and the unspoken challenge in Snape's eyes. "Today," Snape said, voice like ice, "you will brew the draught of clarity. A potion that reveals truth, not just in the drinker, but in the brewer." He paused. Looked directly at Draco. "If your heart is false, the potion will turn black." A murmur rippled through the class. Draco's throat tightened. He'd never brewed anything without cheating. Never done anything without his father's approval. But today was different. He lit his cauldron. Added the moonstone dust. Stirred 7 times clockwise. And as he spoke the incantation, Veritas Revelio, a bubble formed. Not from the potion. From him. It floated above the cauldron, glowing gold. "I'm doing this for me." Tuesday, 9:15 a.m., the brew. The class watched, breathless. Draco added powdered unicorn horn. Stirred counterclockwise. Whispered, "I don't need to be perfect." Another bubble. "I don't need to be perfect." Snape didn't move. But his eyes. His eyes were sharp, waiting. At the Gryffindor table, Harry leaned forward. Hermione's fingers were crossed. Ron held his breath. Even Peeves hovered outside the window, upside down, silent for once. Draco added the final ingredient, a single tear, his own, shed in the dormitory that morning. The potion shimmered, clear as water, glowing faintly silver. He stepped back. "It's ready, sir." Tuesday, 9:20 a.m., the test. Snape approached. Dipped a silver spoon into the cauldron. Lifted it. The liquid remained clear. A beat of silence. Then Snape said, voice softer than anyone had ever heard it. "Acceptable, Mr. Malfoy. Perhaps, even honest." He turned to the class. "The draught of clarity is complete. For the first time in my tenure. Someone has brewed it without fear." The class erupted, not in cheers, but in quiet awe. Draco didn't smile. Didn't boast. Just bowed his head, in gratitude, not submission. Tuesday, 9:25 a.m., the final bubble. As Draco packed his things, one last bubble formed. Not from his mouth. From his heart. It rose slowly, catching the dungeon's dim light. "I am enough." It floated to the ceiling. And didn't pop. Instead, it merged with the golden bubble still drifting over the pitch. Now there were 2. Twins of truth, shining brighter together. Tuesday, 1 p.m., the Great Hall. Word spread fast. By lunch, the story was legend. Malfoy brewed truth in Snape's class. The potion glowed silver. Even Snape was proud. Draco walked in, and for the first time, no one whispered. They just nodded. At the Gryffindor table, Harry raised his pumpkin juice in a silent toast. Draco raised his own glass. No words. No bubbles. Just understanding. Tuesday, 3 p.m., the library. Hermione found him reading Potions Mastery, beyond the textbook. "You passed," she said. Draco didn't look up. "I didn't do it to pass. I did it to prove I could." She sat across from him. "What now?" He closed the book. "Now I keep going. One honest day at a time." Hermione smiled. "Good." Outside, the 2 golden bubbles drifted over the lake, a promise kept, a future begun. Tuesday, 9 p.m., the Slytherin common room. Draco stood before the silver serpent mirror. It didn't speak. Didn't judge. Just reflected him, clear, calm, real. He took off his Slytherin tie. Didn't throw it away. Just laid it on the table. Tomorrow, he'd decide if he still needed it. For now, he was just Draco. And that was enough. Tuesday, 11:59 p.m., the castle watches. Peeves floated near the astronomy tower, watching the two bubbles dance in the starlight. He didn't sing. Didn't laugh. Just whispered. Well, well. Looks like even snakes can shed their skin. Then he vanished. Leaving the castle in peaceful silence. Lit by the soft glow of truth that refused to fade. Part 11, The Truth, Sort of. Wednesday, 7 a.m., the lake shore. Draco found Harry by the water's edge, watching the two golden bubbles drift over the lake like silent sentinels. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood beside him, hands in his pockets, the morning mist curling around their feet. Harry didn't look at him. Come to gloat? Or to curse me properly this time? Draco almost smiled. Neither. Silence. Then, quietly, I wanted to say, thank you. Harry finally turned. For what? For not letting me stay a liar. Harry studied him, the calm eyes, the relaxed shoulders, the absence of the old sneer. You did that yourself. Maybe, Draco said. But you gave me the push. The bubbles. The mirror. The paper frog. He pulled the small origami creature from his pocket. It blinked sleepily. Harry grinned. He's grown on me. Draco took a breath. I know we'll never be friends. Harry nodded. Probably not. But I don't want to be your enemy either. Harry looked out at the lake. Then don't be. It was that simple. No grand speech. No dramatic vow. Just two boys choosing to stop fighting. Wednesday, 10 a.m., the bubble choir. It started with a hum. Not from a person. From the bubbles themselves. As students spoke their truths throughout the day, the bubbles didn't just float, they sang. A soft, wordless harmony that filled the castle like a lullaby. In the library, Hermione's bubble, I'm scared I'll never be enough, harmonized with Ron's, I'm tired of being the joke. In the courtyard, Neville's, I miss my parents, blended with Ginny's, I want to be seen. And high above it all, Draco's and Harry's golden bubbles sang the melody, strong, clear, true. Even Snape paused in the corridor, eyes closed, listening. Remarkable, he murmured. Magic born of honesty, is the purest kind. Wednesday, 1 p.m., the Slytherin table. Draco sat with Pansy, Crabbe, and Goyle, and for the first time, Gryffindor sat nearby. Not friends. Not allies. But not enemies. When Ron dropped his fork near their table, Goyle picked it up and handed it back. Thanks, Ron said, surprised. Goyle nodded. "'S'all right. No bubbles. No words. Just a new kind of normal." Wednesday, 3 p.m., the mirror's final message. Draco visited the Silver Serpent mirror one last time. He expected judgment. Or silence. Instead, the glass rippled, and words formed, not in steam, but in light. You are not him. You are you. And that is enough. Draco touched the glass. It was warm. He didn't need it anymore. He walked away. Leaving the mirror empty. But finally at peace. Wednesday, 6 p.m., the common room, both. In Gryffindor Tower, Harry told Ron and Hermione about the lake. He didn't say much, Harry said. But it was enough. In Slytherin Dungeon, Draco told Pansy. He didn't forgive me. But he didn't hate me either. Both rooms fell quiet. Not with tension. With hope. Wednesday, 9 p.m., the astronomy tower. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood under the stars. Draco joined them, not invited, but not unwelcome. They didn't speak. Just watched the bubble choir dance in the sky, hundreds of them, glowing like stars fallen to earth. "Do you think it'll last?" Ron asked. Hermione smiled. "As long as we keep speaking truth, it will." Harry looked at Draco. "Even you?" Draco met his eyes. "Especially me." And for the first time, they all stood together. Not as houses, but as people. Wednesday, 11:59 p.m., the castle's new song. Peeves floated through the halls, not collecting bubbles, but singing with them. His voice, usually a cackle, was soft, almost beautiful. Truth is quiet. Truth is slow. But once it's spoken, it helps us grow. Even the staircases moved gently, as if dancing to the bubble choir. And in the center of it all, a boy who'd once hidden behind lies now stood in the light. Finally free. Part 12, The Bubble That Stayed. Thursday, 4 p.m., Platform 9 3/4. The scarlet steam engine hissed, impatient. Students hugged, laughed, promised to write. Owls hooted from cages. Parents waved. Draco stood near the rear carriage, trunk at his feet, the paper frog tucked safely in his pocket. He didn't wear his Slytherin tie. Didn't scan the crowd for allies or enemies. Just watched the castle, his home, his prison, his redemption, shrink in the distance. Then, footsteps. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stopped a few feet away. "Leaving so soon?" Ron asked, grinning. Draco almost smiled. "Afraid I'll curse you one last time?" "Nah," Harry said. "Just making sure you've got your bubbles packed." Draco pulled a small vial from his robe, empty, but still glowing faintly. "I don't need them anymore," he said. "The truth's inside now." Hermione handed him a book, Advanced Charms for Ethical Practitioners. "Keep it. You'll need it next year." Draco took it. "Thanks." Silence. Then Harry said, "Write to us. If you want." Draco nodded. "Maybe I will." He boarded the train. As it pulled away, he looked out the window. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood side by side, waving. Not as friends. Not as enemies. But as witnesses to his truth. Thursday, 5:30 p.m., the train compartment. Draco sat alone, the paper frog on the seat beside him. He opened his journal, not the old one, but a new one, plain and unmarked. He wrote. Final day of the curse that wasn't there. Also day one of being me. As he closed the book, a bubble formed, not from his lips, but from the page. It floated to the window, pressed against the glass, and shimmered. I'm going home. It didn't pop. Didn't fade. Just stayed, a quiet promise to himself. Thursday, 7 p.m., the Malfoy Manor. The gates were iron. The hedges were perfect. The house was cold. Draco stood on the steps, trunk in hand. Inside, his father waited, polished shoes, sharp eyes, colder than winter. Draco, Lucius Malfoy said, voice like steel. You look different. Draco met his gaze. I am. Lucius stepped closer. Have you been cursed? Humiliated? Tell me who to punish. Draco didn't flinch. No one cursed me, father. I cursed myself. And I've undone it. Lucius's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Draco reached into his pocket. Pulled out the paper frog. Placed it on the marble floor. It croaked once, soft, defiant. Then he said the words he'd practiced all week. "I'm not you." Lucius froze. For the first time in Draco's life. His father had no reply. Thursday, 9 p.m., Draco's room. The room was unchanged, silver, green, perfect. But Draco didn't unpack his school robes. He opened the window. Let the night air in. Then he took the golden bubble, the one that had watched over him all week, and placed it on the sill. It glowed softly, casting light on the walls. Not the light of fear. Not the light of lies. The light of truth. He lay on the bed, the paper frog on his chest. And for the first time in months, he slept without dreams. Friday, 8 a.m., the owl. A Hogwarts owl tapped at the window. Draco opened it. The letter was sealed with a bubble-shaped wax stamp. Inside, 3 notes. Don't forget. Truth is a muscle. Use it daily. Hermione. If your dad gives you trouble, send the frog. He's got a mean right hook. Ron. You're not alone. Even when you feel like it. Harry. Draco smiled. Tucked the letter under his pillow. And walked downstairs, not as Lucius Malfoy's son, but as Draco. Epilogue, 1 year later. On the first day of the next school year, a new first year arrived at Hogwarts. Nervous. Alone. Terrified of being found out. As he stood on the platform, a bubble floated down from the castle, golden, familiar, kind. It brushed his cheek. And whispered. You belong here. In the window of the astronomy tower, Peeves watched. He didn't laugh. Didn't sing. Just whispered. The bubble stayed. And so did the truth.